Harlem. So, there was light in Harlem. In fact, there was enough brightness in Black Manhattan to start a renaissance and enough energy to reverberate its artsy ambience throughout the universe. 20 years later, a flood of soot and decay eclipsed everything delicate north of 110th Street. From this dirt, God formed some of the world's most complex and unique hustlers.
Well, tonight we're going to talk about somebody that didn't care about none of that. But he had more money than all those flashy dope boys. He was actually the plug of some big names. 112th Street, stand up. My YouTube family, we've been rocking now for almost 2 years. Let's get into it. Now, being born in the South, similar to some other big names like Bumpy Johnson, Frank Matthews, and Frank Lucas, he would eventually move to NY where his father was a stick-up kid. He lost his life to the police. When his father was gone, he was next in line. He took on the role of the provider. Now, he picked up some gigs here and there for a little money, but his life would change when he met Queen B, a dealer out of Harlem. She had a product. He had the ability to get rid of it fast. Things was rocking for a while. He was able to stack some good funds. When working with Queen B, he began to have a better understanding of the game. He saw many things that he didn't agree with. He saw her flaws and how sloppy her business was. She stepped on the product so much that it became weak. Customers started to complain a lot. Giving competitors the opportunity to take customers, people took them as a joke as people began to set up shop in front of his shooting gallery on 15th Street. Before things would get out of hand, it was squashed by a mutual acquaintance. He eventually broke away from Queen B and got with the Italians at the height of the pizza connection, which was a scheme involving purchasing morphine based from suppliers in Turkey, processing it into H in Sicily, bringing it into the US, and then selling it through pizza shops and other mafia businesses stretching from New York to Illinois and Wisconsin. From January 1975 until April 1984, an estimated 1.6 billion worth of H was shipped to this country in the plot. He got his money up and developed good connections. I mean, with the resources, he could never go broke again. Eventually, good things come to an end. During the pizza connection takedown, he ducked those indictments like Floyd. He got away clean, but an attempt on his life took place by 2 gunmen shortly. He didn't know where the hit came from. He was rushed to the hospital and had a blood transfusion that saved his life. He went back to the South to recover and lay low because, just like I said, he didn't know where the hit came from. During recovery, it was very peaceful, but the money was getting low. When he healed, he had to return to New York to make some money. He took what he had in his stash, played numbers, hit different gambling spots till he gathered enough paper to make a deal. He didn't really drink or get high or anything. Now, his thing was gambling. Now, every gambler I know lose way more than they win. But that one win out of 100 will keep you coming back for more for some reason. You get a rush from almost winning. But yeah, gambling will take a big chunk out of your net worth. Believe it or not, gambling will have the boss borrowing from his workers. But anyway, he met with an associate to the Medellin cartel. They gave him a deal that he couldn't turn down with 60 keys of white on consignment and would make $6K off each key. If you do the math, that's 360 grand. He didn't look back. It went from 60 to 500 blocks a month. He got locked in with the Medellin cartel. They wasn't just dealing with anybody. Fritz was something different. Plus, Griselda had the 5 barrels. Top of the line product, I tell you. His work was so good that a fiend took a hit and started crying. Yeah, that was that pure fish scale. Money was coming in like it was nothing. He looked out for everyone around him. He would ride around and hit every hood, passing out bricks with people's name on it. He was like Santa Claus. He was changing dudes' lives, giving them an opportunity to get rich, when a lot of guys didn't even have the money up front. He created bosses all over Harlem. Now, when Rich Porter first met him, he didn't even believe he was the man because of how raggedy he looked. He was low-key, under the radar, no flexing, didn't have to do too much. He wasn't just a part of the game, he quarterbacked it. During his entire run, he didn't do a day in jail. A lot of hustlers should have took some plays out of his book. But when you get money, it's very hard not to flex. Man, he was so low-key, a lot of hustlers that didn't even know they were standing right next to him. And once they found out later, man, they will go off. They expected someone flashy with a lot of gold on, designer wear, the flashy cars, just larger than life. And he didn't mind helping people. He was a giver. See, I don't believe when they say money change people. If you're a scumbag, the money makes you a bigger scumbag. If you're a giver, the money makes you more of a giver. And Fritz gave to everyone. He took care of everyone.
Transport boxes of kilos from the Bronx to Harlem. Moving solo, or with no more than 2 people kept Fritz safe, Holiday says. The less people knew about what Fritz did, and how he moved, kept him alive and out of jail. As much as Fritz kept his circle small, he was in total harmony with everyone on 112th Street. Despite amassing millions of dollars, Fritz never moved out of his cramped apartment at 109 112th Street. This Robert Greene-like behavior, isolation is dangerous, distinguished Fritz from fellow heavyweights such as Kevin Chiles, Faison and others who purchased elaborate homes in New Jersey or Long Island. Barnes, who is also from 112th Street, never left Harlem, but he bought and lived in a luxurious condo in Washington Heights. The building he lived in was his headquarters, Ace says during our interview. Everyone in that building worked for Fritz in some way. The older folks in the neighborhood loved Fritz because he took care of them, gave money for groceries and rent, money for their children's back-to-school clothes, Holiday said. When Donald Porter, brother of Rich Porter, was kidnapped and held for a $500,000 ransom, it was Fritz who gave Porter 33 kilos of cocaine to get Donald back. Unfortunately, Donald was murdered before Porter could muster up $500,000 in cash. Along with larger-than-life individuals from Harlem, the sub-borough is known for its fashion. Dapper Dan, Cameron, and A$AP Rocky, all Harlem natives, have contributed to its prestigious fashion show. But not Fritz. As an example of his frugal habits, Fritz drove a modest Nissan Maxima. Meanwhile, his contemporaries cruised uptown's avenues in cars costing at least $50,000. Guys on 112th Street were not known for being the flyest dudes in Harlem, or for driving the baddest cars, Sheila Harrison, Fritz's half-sister said. If you pulled up on the block with a flashy car, Fritz or one of the guys hustling would tell you to move it, Harrison continued. Fritz's low-key behavior didn't stop wolves from attempting to eat off his labor. Robbery and extortion crews such as Preacher's Crew, Lynch Mob, and Wild Cowboys instilled fear into Harlem's underworld. And Fritz wasn't exempt, either. Members of the Wild Cowboys made a few unsuccessful attempts on Fritz and his family's life. If you believe in honest diligence, then you probably have an issue with Fritz putting 500 kilos of cocaine into several neighborhoods. He played a role in drug addiction and countless armed robberies of dope boys and their families. Fritz easing the financial stresses of his neighbors doesn't excuse the havoc that drugs brought into the community. However, the US government backed the overthrow of Albania's government, and Henry Kissinger signed off on Argentina's dirty war. Americans are rooted in contradictions. According to Fritz's sister Evelyn Simmons, Fritz's life was cut short in 1991 after he was poisoned. Fritz left behind several children, millions of dollars in cash,